The first thing you get after loading a new Minecraft world is probably wood. If you spawn in a badlands or desert, you might either find a biome with wood or just quit the game and create a new world. The reason for this is very simple. Wood is just essential for pretty much any game, no matter if you are a survivor, builder, or whatever. But there are like 12 types of wood in Minecraft, and there will be some that are better than others. So in this video, I will be ranking every wood type in the game from the worst to the best. I have to establish some standards for the ranking. The first thing is obviously the aesthetics, including the colors and pattern designs. This is not a very influential one though. I know that people are going to hate me for this, but I do not really care about making builds look nice. I am not a builder and I have no experience of making builds look good. That's why I am mostly looking at the individual designs of these blocks, which I mean look pretty much the same aside from doors and trapdoors, but whatever. The second thing used to measure the wood types is the difficulty to obtain this wood in the first place. This basically comes to a rarity of the biomes that these trees spawn in. If it is very difficult to find or obtain, this will seriously bring the ranking down. This category considers both sources that only give wood and those that give saplings, because believe it or not, shivers exist. I mean, it's not like it's going to affect that much, but it is included anyways. The third and last thing is the difficulty of farming the thing. I am talking about manually growing and chopping them, not TNT tree farms or anything related to automation or semi-automation. They are just way too powerful in all means. With some saplings and bone meals, you can easily get stacks of logs in minutes. If this tree is a pain to chop down, it will bring the ranking down. I will also consider the number of logs and saplings grown for each tree for this one. So after establishing some rules, we can finally get into the actual ranking. You should be reminded that these are my somewhat radical opinions and that you have the right to disagree with all of these rankings. In fact, I would like to know what your opinions would be, so feel free to leave your thoughts in the comment section. The worst wood of the game is probably going to be a surprise to you. It's pale oak. Controversial opinion, I know, but the pale oak is just too pale. It feels lifeless and kinda boring. What role does this wood even play in the builds in the first place? Maybe it's the wood texture that is unique to the wood, but the gray color makes it feel like it shouldn't be a wood in the first place. Maybe you can argue about stripped pale oak logs being a nice light gray block for building, but I personally disagree. I just do not like this kind of gray in any way. If I were a builder, I would use polished andesite for the gray and calcite or even polished diorite for white. The pale oak just doesn't fit with other colors that well. This tree is also hindered by its difficulty of obtaining in the first place. Pale oak trees only spawn in a pale garden, which is extremely rare in Minecraft. Look at this map. These dark bits are pale gardens. Just look at how rare they are. You might have to travel days just to find one of them, which, by the way, are usually tiny, so it is not very possible to have access to this building block in the first place. But let's say you found this biome somehow. Do you have enough saplings to bring home? You need at least 4 of them in order to grow a single tree, and if you don't get 4 saplings from it, you will need to find the pale garden again. According to this YouTuber, you need 14 pale oak saplings to make absolutely sure that you will not return to this biome for wood. This number may be smaller though, as they set the standard of absolutely sure to 1 in 1,000. On the right side, it is easy to chop this tree as it is a 2x2 tree, so I can make a staircase up instead of pillaring. Overall, this tree is absolutely killed by its pale color, but the next tree is not so pale. The wood in 11th place is the warp wood. I'm not really a fan of the warp wood as its color is kind of weird to say the least. However, unlike pale oak, I can definitely see it being used in builds as some sort of wood equivalent of prismarine or oxidized copper blocks. While not having the best color in Minecraft, it does have its own uniqueness, and I think this is what saves it the most. In fact, I have even used this wood multiple times before, so I can tell that it is actually not that bad as a building material. So you might be wondering what brings it down so much. It's the trapdoor and doors. They look like they're corroded by some sort of chemicals. Why are they all twisted? I guess this is supposed to fit the twisting vibes but this is just too odd for decoration. Combined with the green color, it just looks, allow me to say it, disgusting. By the way, warp wood is actually from the nether, which might mean that they are hard to obtain, but actually, warp forest, or in fact any nether biome, is not rare, so finding it isn't a pain. Also, the only mob from this biome is Enderman, which doesn't pose a threat unless you look at them. The problem is that it is hard to grow and harvest. To grow this thing, you will need 3 things: bone meal, warp nylium, and warp fungus, which requires bone mealing on nylium. But here's the problem. Nylium cannot be obtained without silk touch. You can see why it is hard to obtain in the first place. You must bone meal for it to grow, and since warp blocks and streamlights are not leaves, they do not decay and you have to mine the entire tree manually. The optimal tool for these blocks are hoes, so this fungus requires 2 tools to destroy. This tree is basically a second last because of doors, trapdoors, and the non-decaying warp blocks. Enough ranting, let's head to the next tree. The wood at number 10 is mangrove. This is a hot take, but I do not like this wood. Its red color is fine on its own. It is not the most useful color for my style, but it is undeniably a cool looking wood that has its own charm. I can't say this wood looks ugly unlike the previous 2. It does seem to work well with dark colors such as blackstone or deep flame related blocks. That said, I don't think this is the best reddish wood in the game. I prefer another wood over this one. As for the door, this doesn't seem like a wooden door to me at first glance. I know I am wrong, but it just doesn't have the plank texture that is found on warped and pale oak doors. This door gives me a feeling that it would be used in some palace or hotel or something. I can't say it's bad, but I'm just not a fan of it. As for the trapdoor, this thing has a hole in the middle, which I think is something great. It's kinda unique as it has a circle shape that is not very common among other blocks. I can definitely tell that this is going to be very helpful for making some hole shapes. If you want to find this wood, you have to find a mangrove swamp. This isn't really common, but I have seen this spot multiple times unlike the pale garden, so it doesn't seem that rare. As for growing the tree, you just need 1 block of mangrove leaves and can bone meal infinite saplings. The problem that makes this tree so low is that it is a pain to chop down. There are so many branches hidden in the leaves, and you have to wait until the leaves don't decay to realize that there are still logs inside. Also, these trees have roots which, when grown, do not decay and must be broken manually, which makes it even more painful to chop down. Basically, it is a miserable experience to chop this tree down. That's why it's so low. But finally, here comes a tree that is easy to chop down. Moving on to number 9, we have Acacia. You might expect this to be low in the first place. This color is not bad in its own right. Its somewhat bright color is actually attractive and I kinda like it. The problem is that this color just doesn't fit with many builds in my opinion. I have to clarify that I have used this wood in my builds before, but that is limited to planks and things that have a similar texture. It's not a bad wood, but its uses are a little bit limited. That said, I do not like the log's design. I am never a fan of any grey wood, just like pale oak. It's just too grey to be a log. I don't really think that I would be using this log unless the entire building is acacia and I want to fit the theme. As for the doors and trapdoors, they are alright. They have 6 holes on them. This is not a bad thing on its own and it's not the only wood with that feature, but I am genuinely concerned about the safety of the doors. I don't think that this is actually going to hold on in case of any mob attack. It feels like they can just break the middle 2 sticks and break in. But I wouldn't say it's bad. The problem is still that the color scheme doesn't fit in a lot of builds. The tree itself though is kinda nice. It's the first original tree on this list. It is found in savanna, which is not very rare in the world. Therefore, this wood isn't a pain to find unlike pale oak and sometimes mangrove. Also, the trees themselves are also neat. The logs are almost entirely seen from the outside, which means chopping is much easier and you don't need to find some random logs hidden in the dense leaves. Well, except for this variant, but even this is not a pain compared to a certain tree. The only thing that I would complain about this tree is that it takes up quite a lot of space, and if you are like me who doesn't want overlaps among trees, you need to space them out quite a bit. Also, the tree looks too green to me in warmer biomes. I think it just loses its identity with other yellowish leaves. This is the worst tree among the original 6. The next wood is the only one that is neither from trees nor fungus. At number 8, we have bamboo wood. The wood itself isn't really appealing in terms of both color and texture. This is the only wood that doesn't have the regular plank texture, but instead a bamboo texture to fit the theme. This makes bamboo wood a little bit too smooth to be a plank, and the boat equivalent of bamboo is just a raft. I'm not really sure I should take this thing while traveling. I feel like this thing is going to tip over, sink, or break apart really easily. Also, the block of bamboo, the log or stem variant, looks green even at the top and bottom, which is kinda inconsistent with logs and stems which, despite the barks, reveal the color of planks in the non-barked faces. The strip block of bamboo looks better, but the sides are, I think, just planks rotated 90 degrees. This is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, that is exactly the thing normal logs don't have, but the top is just awful. This looks like some sort of bug eggs which look disgusting. Fortunately, bamboo would redeem itself in combination with another wood. But before that, we have to talk about how easy it is to farm this wood. You can just chop down bamboo and craft 9 into a block. Very surprising, I know. This is the only wood that can be completely automated. All other wood requires you to place down sapling, which prevents it from being automated. Despite the rules saying that automation is not considered, it's still easy to farm them by just placing a bunch of them on the ground. You don't even need to worry that they will go extinct, because as long as you have one, you have infinite. Not to mention the satisfaction of breaking a bunch of them at once. The one problem that I face is just finding the bamboo in the first place, which means we have to find a jungle, which may be a problem for some people. And no, wandering traders do not sell bamboo for some reasons.